We've now moved out of that area and we've come into a new area to see what we can find, and we're going to be walking down a drainage line and seeing if we can pick up any points of interest for me and for Scott and for you. Now, before we go out, for those of you who are new to the bushwalks, and it is a fairly new addition to the WildEarth product, is the rifle that you see me carrying. It's policy that I carry a rifle when we're far away from the lodge and far away from vehicles. And essentially it's just a piece of safety equipment, very similar to a seat belt or to an airbag in your car. And you know, the hope is that you never have to use it, but you know, for one, I'm quite happy that it's here. Now, without further ado, we're going to be sticking our noses down this drainage line and seeing what we can find. It's a quiet afternoon here so far for us on this drainage line. We haven't heard anything. Wind is virtually dead still. I tested with my little wind sock that I've got, the Scott sock, which is just basically ash in a bag. As you can see, lightly going to be blowing into our faces, but not much to concern ourselves over. But without talking too much, let's carry on with the walk and see what we can find. We're going to be using this game trail. Now, game trails are quite nice in that they are quiet to walk on. Animals walk on them quite often, and so there's fewer sticks to break and fewer leaves to crush, and so you can access areas using game paths, and that's what I'm going to do. We're going to walk on this game path a little bit and see where it takes us. Now, unlike driving in a vehicle where it is fairly safe if you know what you're doing, walking just takes that. It's necessary for that extra degree of basically caution. You know, we are essentially part of the food chain, myself and Scott, walking around here, and so the laws of which we interact with these animals changes. Here, it's great respect for size and power, and something like an elephant, we got to respect his right of way here, and a big lion, we've got to respect their right of way here, and they us. We don't want to get eaten by them, and they don't want to be harmed or chased by us by any way. So it does take us walking quietly through the bush, and that's what we're going to be doing now. Quietening down, getting in touch with the bush. So I see a termite mound there in the background. I'm going to be going to it. Doesn't look like much, but essentially that's one of Mother Nature's most efficient air conditioning units. This is an active termite mound, and I know it's active because of the lack of a lot of vegetation. Termite mounds that are not active are covered in grass. This one you can see is a little bit open on the side. Basically, even where I'm standing, there's still termites from the same colony. Very much like an iceberg. Only 10% of the termite mound actually sticks out the top. 90% of it is underneath. Some of them many hundreds of years old. You have trees on them sometimes that grow to 300, 400, 500 years. Now, we don't really know if it's the same colony that has or passing down of a queen that carries on with the colony, or whether or not when a termite queen dies, and she lives for up to 17 years, whether she will die, and it's just such a perfect habitat for a new queen to take hold that she flies in with her mate and they just re-establish a new colony. We don't really know that. It's one of the mysteries in the insect world. Let's carry on. Now, what we've been doing is we've been walking very close to this drainage line here. And drainage lines are like highways in the bush, really. There's soft sand down there. During the heat of the day, animals rest up down there, and they make for these unbelievably straight line, basically highways through the bush. Now we came up here, we're on a very steep embankment. We're looking down onto the sand and we're seeing what we can see. I'm looking for things like tracks. I approached it quite carefully. Very often you find predators will actually lie down on the soft, cool sand and rest up during the day. You can see all the way down there. It's quite a substantial drainage line. What Scott and I are going to try and do is we're actually going to try and take you down there so you can see what I mean by one of these super highways in the bush. So we're going to find a place to get down. This is very steep. Won't be able to do it without wings on. We should be there in a bit. What I do want to show you though, give Scott some time just to get into place, is that even though it might be too steep for us, it's not too steep for a buffalo. This is a buffalo track, and he went down this gully onto that sand. For those of you who thought buffalo were ponderous creatures that couldn't get down steep things like that, you're mistaken. It's impressive. I must be honest with you, I wouldn't go down there. 1,000-pound animal just crashed down there. Crazy. Let's hope he doesn't jump on our heads when we're in there. I'm constantly checking for wind. It's important to do so. When possible, it's always best to keep the wind in your face. It's not always the case, but when it's possible, we're going to try. What have we here? Here we have the diggings of probably, it's tough to say, man, but I'd probably say it's a porcupine, or it's it's a porcupine. That's what I'm going to be saying that it is. I might be wrong here. For those of you who can help me with any tracks, you're welcome to suggest an alternative. To give you some scale, it's like that. Porcupines dig for roots. This is far too big an excavation for a mongoose. And it may be a honey badger, but honey badgers tend to go down. They don't really go in like that or get to such a big point down there. So it might be a porcupine. Porcupines are fairly common out here. And I was expecting it to be a burrow of some sort, but it's definitely just diggings, and diggings for some food. We've managed to locate a way down to this highway. Now we're going to be going down here quite carefully, simply because it's difficult for us to see down there. You never know what's hiding. And we've managed to find the most beautiful nests. These are from a single bird. It's a weaver. And I'll bring you in close in a second. First, have a look at the way that's constructed out of grass. I mean, this is an animal with a brain no bigger than your fingernail, actually your baby fingernail. And look at the absolute complexity. Note particularly how the branch has been stripped of leaves, and how thick the grass netting is on the top, which does two things. It insulates the egg and the female that's sitting on the egg, and it acts as a rain cover. And the entrance is at the bottom. Now let's see if we can go a bit closer and you can see what the entrance looks like. Tough to see, unfortunately, but
doing for Saturday, Sunday now. Maybe that's what they
meticulously placed.
I mean, 3 hours. I mean, it's great that we're doing 3 hours, but fuck, it's long, huh? I mean. All right, guys. Welcome back this side, and glad you could join us. We're just talking about all right. Let me just regain myself here. This was a break from the bushwalk there. Guys went into a deep dip. We'll see if we can find them again. But this side, not too much happening. This leopard is taking it easy because he can. He's got a belly full of meat. In fact, we can really see that full belly from where we're sitting now. Guys, we're just talking about a bunch of things here, but leopard and game drives and the live safari and how awesome it is. But we specifically mentioned, where are we now? I'll show you just now. Give me a second. We're just waiting for something. Guys, we wanted to show you this, but let me just get into a good position. Whoa. That's an alarm call from a Franklin. I wonder what that is. Look at the leopard's eyes are open. It's coming from where the kill was before, so I would guess maybe a hyena. But we're going to show you this quickly. This is a possible ID mark. Look right in the middle of that rosette. Keep in mind, leopards don't really have spots, even though the saying goes they don't change their spots. They have spots that make up these rosette markings. But look at that rosette. Apart from the fact that it's a beautiful pattern, look at the little black dot in the middle of it. Now that's unique to this leopard. So this would be another way that we could ID Q in the future, if you can see him from this side. And also, you might not always see that spot so easily because his belly is very full at the moment. It sort of pushes that out a bit. But he's seeing something. I'm not seeing what he's seeing, but he's sitting up in a tree. We are not. As I said, I would have to guess a hyena, maybe another leopard. Although the leopards of this area, his brother perhaps. We haven't seen Kunuma for a few days. We know Mvula is not around here because Mvula is with Hayden. Might have been something else as well, something small, maybe just the Franklin that got a fright. But maybe something smaller. He doesn't look too worried. Yeah, John would like to be a wildlife photographer. We're talking about the dream jobs from earlier. Daniel was saying, there we go, Daniel, I like your answer. You just want to be in the wild. And Anna would like to be, what is that, Anna? Very good. An environmental scientist. Studying leopard, I'm sure, Anna. Guys, thanks for the feedback there. There's a couple of what people would like to be. In this case, all of them something related to the wild. But I know that if you had to do a big international survey with hundreds of thousands of people answering that question, one of the things that comes to the foreground very often, I think I've read it once, that it's not just that they want to be a wildlife photographer, but that they want to be a photographer for National Geographic, and I've heard that many times, and this is what we are at the moment. More specifically, Brian and VM on the vehicles, and working with WildEarth in the live environment is very exciting. But we were just talking about it earlier, that what we're doing here is certainly something people dream about, and we've spoken about it a few times with the guys behind camera, not only on drive but sometimes afterwards as well, and I can see it sometimes. I look back and the guys are paying attention, but they've got this little smile on their face. And one of the things I think is that you imagine when you think of doing that kind of job. Brian? Isn't this one of those ultimate things you imagine when you imagine filming wildlife?
Definitely. Definitely can't even put words to what the cameramen here experience.
Yeah, that is for sure. And the fact that we share it is a massive thing. Massive, massive. Gets lonely being a photographer or a cameraman. But what we're doing here is we're sharing things, and that is, on a personal level as well, gives you great contentment, maybe, satisfaction, enjoyment, pleasure. The fact that we can share these amazing experiences. Just in case you're wondering, Stefan is fine. I know a few of you have been away for a few minutes, but Stefan and them went in some tricky terrain, and we came back to us. With this leopard, we'll probably go to Hayden in a bit, seeing what Mvula is up to. I'm not sure exactly what Mvula is doing now, but this is what we've got. He's not doing too much. He's moved a bit. We heard a francolin call just now. Francolin's a bird almost like a grouse or a pheasant, something similar to that, like a small wild chicken, if you want to sort of generalize it. Over here towards the left, back towards where the original kill was made, when this guy killed this kudu. So I was thinking, the leopard looked around, didn't see anything. For now, we're not seeing anything. He's gone back to sleep. So I think let's go to HT. I'm sure he's got maybe a bit more active leopard activity, and we'll see you back here in a bit.
Okay folks, well we've been with Mvula for some time now, and he's just been looking around. He sat down for quite some time, and we're just walking with him as he's looking down into this drainage line. If he goes down in there, he'll probably potentially find something, but at the moment he's just sort of going right along the edge of it, and the light is getting much lower at the moment. It's pretty hard to see. He stops now and again, and he noticed some things. I just want to reiterate, folks, the vehicles that we drive here, these animals are very conditioned, and we've been with them many times on successful encounters with getting food. So, and particularly the prey animals are very used to the vehicles as well. You might hear a lot of cars starting up and things like that, but this has been going on for a long time, and these animals have great success. We have Max in Toronto, and Max wants to know what all the little nicks and cuts on Mvula's ears are. I'm going to try and just show you those, if I can get up a little bit closer. Let's see if he stops for me. He stopped just there. Now if you go in nice and tight, as tight as you can, VM, that's as tight as we can get from here. He's got these little nicks and cuts and scratches on his ears. They're probably from fights, and a little bit of fly bite and things like that on the edges of his ears. But I would say from fighting and protecting his territory, or getting into even a scrap with a female. But it's just war wounds over the years, and it wouldn't impinge on any of his abilities to hear or anything like that. But you know, coupled with a little bit of fly bite, when the animal does get a wound, they might get flies that annoy it and keep the wound open, and then you just get scar tissue on the top. Now if you were just to pull back on that shot and go as wide as you possibly can, and just keep him in the bottom corner of frame, you could see, if you were really still, okay, if you're really still, And he stayed nice and still. You can see how that camouflage is playing a beautiful part now for him, with this sort of light diminishing in front of us. That rosette pattern starts to break up the definition of him. He's definitely just keeping his eyes open here. And this is a perfect spot for him to lie. He's got a little bit of cover here, and an animal coming out of the drainage line in front of him to feed on the tender sort of grass that's been cut on the edges. Could be just the ticket for him. So folks, also we just wanted to remind you that if you could send, we've got 2 fireside chats this weekend. We've got one on Saturday night and one on Sunday night. The sort of theme for Saturday night is predator density or predator populations, and how we've got a lot of, I mean, we've seen 4 leopards today, how we're seeing so many predators at the moment, and potential theories on why that is, and that sort of thing. And if you want more information, you can go to the Facebook page of WildEarth.tv and find out more info there. And then the Sunday night, the theme is wild parenting. So all the sorts of parenting behaviours that you see in the wild with different animals, but particularly the big cats, and particularly the leopards. But it doesn't have to be the leopards or big cats. It can be other questions as well on maybe it's elephant or anything you really want. But if you could send us questions that you'd like to get asked, and we'll definitely try and get some of those in for questions around the fireside chat. And then there's also the potential lucky person to get to choose the name for Shadow's baby, Shadow's cub, I should say. So also you can tweet those or send us those suggestions as well. So for more information, if you go onto the Facebook page at wildearth.tv, or you can tweet us at Safari Live, which is hashtag Safari Live, or you can email us at questions@wildearth.tv. So folks, I think Mvula is just going to sit pretty here for a minute and wait till this light drops a bit more. And, oh no, he's up and moving. We're going to stick with him, and we're going to cross to Steph and see what Steph's up to. Steph's on a trail at the moment, walking through the bush. So let's cross over to Steph and we'll be back just now.
Welcome back to us, folks. I must apologize for leaving us so hastily last time. You know, the amazing thing is that you get to walk around with myself and Scott in the bush, and we had to get out of that drainage line that we were in so we could get back into signal. We've just come across this buffalo, or these 2 buffalo that were wallowing in this mud wallow while we were busy walking up that drainage line. As you can see, that male buffalo saw us, he heard us, and he's just making some space. I'm sure we'll be able to go up onto the dam wall in a second. We'll show you the lovely dam. Now I've got 3 buffalo visual. Buffalo on foot, definitely a different story to the buffalo in a vehicle. And something that we definitely treat with a lot of respect. As I was mentioning a bit earlier, for those of you who are with us, things that weigh more than you or have sharper teeth and claws than you do over here is definitely something that we want to try and give right of way to. Just one of these respect things that I'm talking about when we're dealing in the bush. You'll notice that I've also moderated the tone of my voice, and that's so that I don't come across as overtly loud in this environment. The bush is actually quite a quiet place. Those old buffalo bulls are making their way off now. We're going to go to the other side of the dam to give ourselves some space, and we're going to see what we can find over there. Come along. Those buffalo are moving off now onto the road. It actually works in our favor, that. I'm faced with a choice here. Which way do I go? Do I carry on walking across the dam? Do we carry on in the way that we were going? And I think what's actually going to be best for us is to carry on in the way we were going. Right when we had lost you, Scott and myself found some male leopard tracks that were on the floor, and he was heading in this direction down next to this dam. I think it's going to be good if we go down here and see if we can find some tracks now that those buffalo have moved off. Tracking is such a huge part of being out here in the bush. It's when you're off the car that you truly are able to experience the bush around you. When you don't have a clattery engine around, you can hear so much better, and that makes all the difference when you're tracking. So, it is getting a little bit dark right now, and Scott and myself coming out of that drainage line where we lost your signal, we've come out to this beautiful dam. There were some buffalo standing here. We're now looking for some leopard tracks. We had some fresh leopard track back there where we lost you, and we've now come out here to see if we can find it again. We're going to be checking all these game paths. These dams end up being nodes. They end up being focus points for animals coming to and from the dam. And leopard will very often hunt these game paths in the hope that they find something either walking to the water or coming back from the water. And it's on one of these game paths that I expect to find one of these leopard tracks again, which will give us a direction that we can move off on. Let's carry on looking over here. You won't be able to notice it, but I found the leopard track I was looking for right here. Track of a big male leopard. He's moving off exactly in that direction, and that's exactly where we're going to be going now. Doesn't look like much, I know, but for a tracker that's as much as a neon signboard, this is where this big Tom walked.
I'm laughing about it now because it's past and it's cool, but it's still not cool, you know, it's not.
That was from...
Well, welcome back. Sit with something as beautiful as a leopard, and you can have conversations, and you can have surprises. And we're in that part of the evening now where, what's the time? Just past 5:30. Saturday this time we'll be sitting around the fire, talking about a few things. Speaking of which, if you part of the sort of conversations and discussions more often on the vehicle than not, and you like to be part of it, firstly, thank you. It's always nice to have people chatting with us. By the way, if you don't feel like saying anything ever, that's also great. I go on game drive, sitting in the back. Often I'm just happy just to look and enjoy the views. But coming back to to the Fireside Chat Saturday and Sunday, we are going to be answering a few questions, and we're looking for as many questions as possible from all of you. You can send those questions into questions@wildearth.tv, or of course tweet it as well, #SafariLive. And the questions should be around, one of the things we are going to talk about is all this activity or interspecies competition, or sort of bumping into each other, if you want, of apex predators. If there's any questions surrounding the interaction between leopard and hyena, hyena and wild dog, lion and leopard, hyena and lion, anything surrounding that. The other subject we're going to be talking about is, obviously with Mother's Day in mind, is wild parenting. So a little bit broader than just, sort of mum and babies, but wild parenting and anything that you might be wondering about in terms of parent-youngster relationship, or even parent-environment relationship. Parenting for someone in London, and parenting for someone in New York, and parenting for someone living in a local village around the corner in Africa here somewhere, that could be quite different. Even though they're doing the same thing, it could be quite different. The same as for parenting for a leopard in Sabi Sands, where there's lots of bush and big trees like the one that this one is sleeping in. You could also say, well, it's quite different for parenting for a leopard that maybe lives in Namibia in the desert, or a leopard that lives in the jungles of Central Africa. So any types of questions like that, please send them through to us. And quickly, jump to Stefan. There's something happening there. We'll see you just now.
You love. Well, welcome back to us, and I'm sorry we're having such problems with the signal at the moment, but we are in a really deep area, deep ravine, and we quickly came back onto the road where we had signal last, where I could greet you and say, I hope that you enjoyed the bushwalk with us, however short it was, and I hope that you enjoyed the leopard that we found for you this afternoon, and which Hayden showed you so beautifully. Myself and Scott are going to be saying good night. Thank you so much for joining us, and all the best.
So folks, we left Mvula to carry on with his hunting. It's just too thick, that country, to go through, so let him get on with it, and I'm sure he's going to get something tonight. He's on the hunt, very successful in that area. There's lots of prey animals through there. Little impala herds just sort of on the verges where he was sitting, and when we last saw him. There's warthog, but warthog will be asleep or going to find a place to sleep now, because warthog are actually diurnal, they're active during the day. But there's nyala as well, and kudu, and steenbok, and that little steenbok was a bit tricky, around the back of that termite mound, but it did detect something well before it saw us. But anyway, the great thing was that we got to track him and got to be with him a bit, and hopefully we'll be able to pick up on his tracks in the morning. But it's been an incredible leopard day, that's for sure. I'm going to sign off now and go back to Pete in a minute, or Steph, I'm not sure. But what I wanted to say was thank you very much for joining us. And then what I'll do is see you in the morning, that's for sure. 100%. We'll be back same time tomorrow morning to do another drive, and it's been great to have you here. Thank you for all your questions. A fantastic morning, starting off with that beautiful hyena sighting in the morning, and then Q, and then going back and seeing Q, and then picking up Mvula from that wonderful tracking of Scott, Steph and Brent. So hats off to them as well for finding that for us. So folks, great one. Thanks so much. Remember, if you want any more information, go to the WildEarth.tv website, Facebook page, about what the theme for the questions are. And also, we really look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning. All right, from VM and I, we'll see you next time, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Cheerio.